For you gentlemen that were with us last month, was anybody able to connect?
I think we all connected.
Yeah, we were able to talk to Alan and Paul. It was a good combo, and like it just kind of reaffirmed the choice to get in on this. That y'all are a good group of dudes, and it'll be cool to how this evolves over time and everything.
Nice, man. I'm glad you guys connected. That's kind of the magic sauce too. And in person, Levi, with the hug that we got last month, I loved it. It was awesome. So, what I was gonna do, and I think so really I was gonna have you guys put where you are in your name, but Alan's in Florida, Michael and Levi both in Colorado, and then Joe's in Texas. So, and then Stu and I are obviously in Colorado. But ideally, as the group continues to grow, we start knowing where dudes are, and there's been some amazing connections in person that guys have had. Just there's actually been one guy in the group who's out in Kansas City. He started a weekly get together as well. So just getting men together, doing this, doing life together has been extremely powerful. So, hey, let's jump in. This month is Faith Month, and this is a for me, this is a very, this has been one of the more impactful topics that we've talked about, and for a number of different reasons. And just anecdotally, Stu and I had a conversation. This is how impactful and how far-reaching this is. We've probably gone through this a number of times at this point with groups of men, but even you always continue to grow. The other day, Stu, he had to buy a new truck, and we were talking about finances, and the conversation of faith very quickly played in. This would have never happened before, diving in TKM, but very quickly the conversation about finances and spending money and comfort and security, it very, very quickly went from finances to faith. And we asked each other some very hard questions like, hey, why do you think you feel that way? And how does that impact your relationship with God? We're talking about buying a new truck, right? Buying a new truck, and how does that impact your relationship with God? But what's very interesting is, Ben, what's up, my man? What's very interesting is these things are there's such a sliver of separation in these conversations, and until you get deep into these topics and truly challenge yourself with some of these hard questions we're going to go over, you don't necessarily see it. And when you do see it, you can't unsee it, which is good, but it also challenges every decision. At least for me, every decision in my life is challenged in a different way, and Faith Month is one of those months. Hey, Ben, are we good on comms? Can you hear us, bud?
I can hear you fine. I just got you on mute because Evan's not happy.
No worries, dude. No worries. Ben Killoy, dad coach, awesome guy. Again, you'll have some connections, some connection homework after this call. So we're jumping into Faith Month. I want to express my gratitude for you guys for joining us, and for those of you guys that connected, I'm a little bit have FOMO. The conversations that I imagine took place, but I'm super excited that they did take place, and you guys got to meet some new dudes. Excuse me. So, Ben, remind me, Ben, or where are you located, dude?
In Wisconsin.
Southern Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, that's right. Wisconsin. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot Wisconsin. Hey, dude,
You got to accent it. You got to go to the Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. We're gonna have to talk offline. I'll hit you up another time because we're planning our Wisconsin trip for this summer. I'd love to see you in person, give you another hug.
Oh, perfect.
Ben was actually, and I'll talk about at the very end the upcoming retreat, but Ben was a guest speaker at a retreat in Arizona, so it was really cool. All right, so quick reminder for this call, guys. Ground rules: honesty and vulnerability. Like that, it's super simple. Honesty and vulnerability, and as you get into the group, there's two things that, again, I want to reiterate that are super apparent with this group of men, and those of you guys that connected already know this. Everybody in this call is a very impressive dude, right? And we all are flawed in our own special and unique ways, which is awesome. I mean, that's we're human. That's what's to be expected. And then the second is there's absolutely zero judgment. There's zero judgment from anybody in TKM, which is such a freeing, liberating experience. We could talk really, really deep things. And I would encourage you guys, I would ask you to please share. Listen, the more willing you guys are to speak up, the more each of us is blessed with your perspective, especially in this week of reflection. The more we're blessed with your perspective, because each of you has, and I'm telling you this not as just to blow smoke. This is honest to goodness truth, and we've seen it. Every one of you has the power to change another man's life forever, if you're willing to change another man's life forever. Okay. And oftentimes if you hold back, you rob yourself of the opportunity, and potentially you rob that dude of the catalyst that could drive change for their life. And we've seen it so many times now that it's not even a radical thought for us at this point, because that's the way it works. So everybody, I'm assuming, has a workbook, and you've already noticed, or you will notice, that everything is a real paradigm, which is reflect, execute, account, and live. And so the focus of this call is Reflect Week, right? And the intent is to share, to challenge, and to broaden your perspective on this month's topic. So if you grow, excuse me, if you have contradictory views or something that you think may not be popular within the group, share it. Share it. The healthy discussion is desired, and the point is really to think and to grow. So within the rest of the month within the Connect Man Mastermind, it's completely dedicated to action, but this week is very specific to dive in, to think critically, to think deeply, and that's the point. As an aside, just this was something I want to share with you guys. Last month was Health Month, and this is probably what's the fourth or fifth time we've gone through Health Month with the Kinetic Man. So for me personally, probably the fourth or fifth time. And I can honestly say this last month was the most impactful by far and life-changing health month I've ever experienced. And the point is that the power of these topics is not in the talking, it's in the action. So I'd encourage you guys to take a look at that workbook and go through it. No kidding, take it seriously and drive towards action. Use this call today and the workbook and discussions, even your follow-on conversations, as a way to challenge who you currently are, right? Identify the gaps in this topic that are in your life, and identify the gap from where you are and the man that you want to be. And then, no kidding, guys, let's make calendar level change. If you need accountability, reach out to one of these dudes, reach out to me, reach out to Stu and be like, this is what I want to do, and do something about it, right? Whatever that is. But this month in particular is a very powerful month for that, because this is a topic a lot of us don't really dive deeply into. And at the end of the day, man, we're not potential men, we're kinetic men, right? That's the point. We do something about this. Potential men, dude, I don't want to be how many of you guys play sports, right? Who is like, hey coach, put me on the bench. That's where I want to be, on the bench, and cheer for my teammates. No, but nobody wants that, right?
I have lots of potential.
I have lots of potential, coach. I have lots of potential, right? We don't want that, right? This is all about having fun with this and taking action and seeing growth and seeing change. So let's get after that. Just like we started last month, we're going to start this month with a definition. So faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. That's one definition. Second is a belief and trust in God based on evidence, but without total proof. All right. So I find it extremely interesting that the second definition is that most things we have faith in are based in evidence without total proof. And I find that fascinating, not just from a spiritual perspective. It doesn't just apply to our faith in God, this idea of not being able to see, right, our God. I think most of the things that we have faith in, and we're going to get after this, most of the things that we truly have faith in, a lot of it doesn't have total proof. We have no assurance. Say you have faith in your bank account, you have no assurance that won't disappear tomorrow for some reason, or that it will abundantly grow. You have no proof that's going to happen. You have efforts, you have things that you want to do, but there's no proof that you can't see it, right? You can't see it actively, all the factors that are going to make that make significant changes in there. So for the identity piece, for the kinetic man, so kinetic man knows, we know that everyone has faith. We're willing to do the hard work of identifying where we place our faith, and more importantly, to decide if our faith is appropriately in the place of our choosing. So I'll say that again. As a kinetic man, we're willing to do the work to identify where we place our faith. But more importantly, we decide if our faith is appropriately in the place of our choosing. We do not walk through life blindly, okay? All right, so before we dive in with these questions, we recognize faith is one of those tricky subjects, and it can be a bit challenging. And that's exactly why we talk about it, right? The word itself typically connotates, I'm going to throw it to you guys. What's the first thing that pops in your mind, Levi, when I say faith? What's the first thing that pops in your mind?
Yeah, I guess I actually saw a video about this yesterday. this guy on the street asked somebody like something about what he believed in, right? And to believe, it's like you were saying, you don't have proof, but you have faith or you believe in it versus you actually know yourself. And so there's things like, we're a bunch of academy grads on here that we got our Bachelor of Science degree and we learned about the scientific method and, all the techie type stuff of things that you can actually know. And that's important because, human lives are on the line in that case. But outside of that, faith would be kind of the more, I'd say like, on the spiritual side of things are the things that you don't know from the scientific method, but you place your faith in. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think a lot of times the word faith connotes religion, right? Which that's also a very touchy subject for a lot of folks is religion. And it's, before TKM, I would say that faith for me was all about Jesus, was about my personal faith, was about Christianity and love of Jesus, right? Like that's what it was for me. And while I will, admit that that is a huge part of my reality, I've been significantly challenged with my full and true reality since diving into this topic. And specifically, when you go back to the definition, I have to question myself, do I really put complete trust and confidence in someone or something? And it's a fascinating question that we should ask ourselves, because if a lot of us stop at, I love Jesus, yes, I do. Do you? If you ask that simple question, do you, it could take you down a path of, if your faith, your religious faith, your spiritual faith is something that is a priority, then it forces you down a path to really consider some of the other aspects of what faith lived out actually looks like in your life, right? And so, we know for a fact, everybody on this call, I guarantee you, I promise you, unequivocally has faith in something, right? You have faith in something. I promise you that. The problem is that most of us are unwilling to name our God, and we're built to have faith and to worship a thing, but some of us just don't even know what that is. And so, as a thought exercise, just consider, I'll use bank accounts because they're popular, right? And it's a very especially with men and our role as a provider, a lot of us, that's the source, is the bank account. So what do you guys feel when you open your bank account? Like, just think about it. Just to picture yourself going to your USA app or your whatever app, you open it. What do you feel when you open your bank account? What are you looking for when you open your bank account? What are you striving for when you're looking at that bank account? Right? So just live in that for a sec. What is it? And be honest with yourself. What are you really, is there a number that you're seeking or you're looking for that has become a goal, or you feel uncomfortable if it's not at that place? And it's an interesting thing as we dig into this. Why do I feel that way? And if I say you're a Christian, God says he'll provide, do I really believe that in the context of my bank app? Do I truly believe that? Or is it vice versa? Right? And so just as one simple thought exercise, just consider your banking app. And now I hope I've ruined you forever. And every time you open your bank account, you're like, oh, what am I doing in this bank account? Right? But it's an important thing to ask. And most of us place our faith in many things. We should acknowledge that up front. Some God, some the bank, some the government. But the bottom line is, you're truly walking blindly if you don't know what it is that you place your faith in, and if you're not conscious on choosing if it deserves your faith or not. Does that make sense? So two deep questions that are really, as we dive in, we're about to dive in, but I just asked two things that of you that will benefit you, right? This is for you. Be honest with yourself and commit to thinking deeply about your faith. And that honesty piece, for me, just that little reminder has been absolutely life-changing for me with faith. And I'm not saying I'm a person of huge faith or that I have a beautiful faith. Quite the contrary. Oftentimes I'm now like, man, do I really have the faith that I profess in the things that I say are important. And the questioning of that will inevitably increase the depth of your faith in whatever it is that you claim faith in. All right. But identifying it is a hugely powerful step. And so for me, like, no joke, for the last 3 years, this topic has challenged me on an almost daily basis. When I look at my income, my businesses, my relationships, the dude in the mirror, when I consider my faith, when I go to church, all these things are significantly impacted just by this. So just if someone doesn't mind sharing, you know, I don't mind calling on dudes. So with that, did that bank account thought exercise, does that do anything to you? Did that move a needle? Did it cause you any, did it elicit any emotion? That specific question.
I'll go. For me, it elicits, and I've kind of had this journey with the bank account as a man who's had more non-sufficient fund fees in my account last year than I want to admit. Realizing how much of that number is denoted my worth, and realizing that the sun does shine even if it says negative. That the world does go on, and many times, like, the negative can make you feel like you need to end your life in a very stereotypical kind of way. But like, the world does end no matter what that number is. And also, when the government was giving out their COVID checks to everybody, and automatically out of nothing, just a magic large number appeared that you didn't do anything for except just exist, made me realize like how manipulative of that number is, and how like that number is just digital air. And yet somehow it defines our entire existence of what we're chasing. And growing up on a farm in southern Wisconsin, where my dad always felt like tomorrow was going to be the day everything could end, I never felt secure in money. I never felt like it was abundant. And I remember 6-7 years ago at my job I used to have, thinking to myself, like, I am done letting a salary dictate my worth. Because very much in the stereotypical salary universe, if you're paid 88,000, you assume that's your value as a human being. And when you realize that, like, no, like, that number is just a number, doesn't determine your worth, and it's assigned by someone else. So then you kind of just surrender to it, and like, learning to let all that shit go and surrender to God, not the number, has kind of been the path that I've been walking a lot of. In the last 6 months, I've been channeling a lot more. What does it look like to truly surrender to God? What does it truly look like to be a person of value in God's economy and not the world's economy? And what does it truly look like to walk with open hands and allow God to show up in whatever way he needs you to, serve the people that fall into your hands, and then move on to the next day?
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. The worth part, that's huge. Well, and to your point with the money appearing, that's why I try to spend it as quickly as possible, because it's just trons, and I don't want it to be taken away. So I just spend it.
Well, in the government, if you remember, the Navy always got their money. So
Heck yeah. That's what we do.
they never accidentally
Good,
gave
dude.
you anything that they wouldn't find a way to take back if they made a mistake.
The Air Force purposefully spends more money so they can get more money.
Yeah, there you go.
True, that is an actual strategy.
Hey, so I appreciate you mentioning worth, though. And one thing, as you're holding that sweet, precious, priceless baby, one thing that for those of us who are dads as well, and you don't even have to be a dad. If you have somebody who relies on you, whether it's a parent, a spouse, a kid, like, there's somebody in your life, a friend who looks to you and relies on you, it ask them if your salary matters, right? Like, it just changes the perspective, because typically the salary that they're looking for from you is a time investment. It's a time and it's a presence. It has very little to do with net worth or perceived value from a monetary perspective. So I think that's an important indicator that we also have to, like, really be conscious of, because it can free us to be the influence that we have. It can free us to really provide the essence of who we are when we're unbound from these ideas of, 88K. Well, that's what I'm an 88K guy. Like, I don't know what that means, but that's what I am, right? So,
and then the worst part is when there's other people around you that are 200K, and then you start thinking, well, there must be something wrong with me.
Right.
because the
Right.
universe has never saw me as a 200K person. So what's the difference? It must be me. And then you internally self-talk yourself into a fucking self-sabotaging closet of I just must suck.
Right. Yeah. And in reality, our suckiness may be completely independent of what we make it work, right? I'm just kidding, dude. Oh, all right. First question. This is we're getting into it. All right. So the first question I'm gonna give you guys, dude, you have a timer? I don't have a timer. I never have a timer, dude.
Got it.
2 minutes to fight. Excuse me. Define what faith means to you. 2 minutes. Define what faith means to you. If you have the workbook, you can write it in it. If not, just think through it. What does faith mean to you? Ready, go.
Get a notebook, journal. Go. All right, time.
Joe, what you got, my man?
So what I wrote is, for me, faith is hope. It's like it's a plan. It's something that's intangible, right? Like hope and a plan is intangible. You can put it in place, but you don't necessarily know that it's going to go according to that, right? But you can kind of look at, where you've been. You can kind of look at where you are. You can kind of look at where you're going, and you can always have a plan. You can always have hope in what that means, and to me, that's what I think faith is, because every day you wake up with an unknown, but you can always look back and reflect and understand what your plan was and how you got here today, and what your plan is moving forward and how you can get there.
Nice. Quick follow on to that. When things don't turn out as you had hoped, what does that do to your faith?
it I think it shakes it a bit, but again, being able to look back at the plan and look, that's what's nice about a hope, and that's what's nice about the plan, is you can always reflect back and say, hey, there was something that happened similarly, and I'm still here. I still got to this point. I still can get through it. How did I get through it? And how do I understand, you know, what to do from that scenario? And again, that could be good or bad, right? It could be a good thing that happened not according to plan, and it could be a bad thing that happened according to plan. But if you really think and understand, how you put those stepping stones in front of you, maybe you miss a step every once in a while, and you can really dive in and understand how to either skip that step, or you'll find another step along the way.
Love it. Love it. Good. Yeah, I like how you pointed out too, because I'll admit I didn't think of it when my initial thought when I was considering when things don't go according to plan, what does that do to your faith? I didn't even consider the positive aspect of it, right? Like sometimes awesome things happen that did not go according to your plan. And I think those should be acknowledged too. Oftentimes you don't acknowledge that. As I did in my question, I didn't even acknowledge the positive. My mind was directly on the negative. So I appreciate you highlighting that. That was a check to me. Appreciate it.
Right.
Awesome, man. All right, next question. I'm just going in order, so heads up, Mike, you're next, and then Alan. So just giving you guys I'm pimping you to be ready. Hey, this next question, this one is a interesting one. I really enjoy it for myself, and I often revisit it. But here you go, 2 minutes for this, and this is something that I've been meditating on for years at this point. And so while we give you 2 minutes, I would really encourage you guys to revisit this. The question is, we all have faith in something. Have you ever considered what you truly have faith in? Do so now. Do so now and consider what brings you the most comfort as an indicator of faith. So what brings you the most comfort? Think about that, and that's a good indicator of faith, right? So is it God, bank account, title, position, role? What is it? And be honest. Be honest. Okay? 2 minutes. What do you have faith in? Go.
All right, time.
All right, Mike, you're up. Drop some deep knowledge bombs on us.
I hope you're ready for this, man. My Bible study this morning was right on this subject. So the proverbial stars.
I planned that perfectly, dude. Like me and
Proverbial
God
stars
coordinated.
aligned, man. So, we all have faith in something. My faith, similar to, I don't know any of the other guys on here, but, to Stu and David, my faith is in the Lord and the fact that, he's won the battle. I know the ending of my story. I know the ending of the story, and I know that I win and I have eternal life in Christ. But book answer aside, I spend every one of my days putting my faith in my own abilities and the sphere of control that brings me comfort, whether that's my bank account, whether that's my title at work. But not to get long-winded here, but all of that has been stripped away from me over the last few years. I'm not a vet. I wasn't cool enough to get into a service academy, so I'm the outcast here. But I spent 10 years as a cop here in Metro Denver, and I went from being a young naive kid to a hardened adult in the span of a year. Like, holy crap, this world sucks. And all of these things that I learned in the Sunday school faith now didn't really look the same in my day-to-day life. The world's an ugly place, man. And I found myself just pulling everything into my sphere of control, and the rest be damned. Like, I can control what I can control. So that faith, I know the answer, I know the truth, but I fight against that every single day. what do I believe in? Do I believe in God's provision and God's plan and God's will for my life? Yeah, I do. But do I believe in that more than my own desires for my own outcomes? And I read something this morning, and I'll just read it real quick. It's super, super short. She's talking about a friend of hers. It's from the Book of Hope. It's a 1-year devotional, and she's talking about a friend of hers who had breast cancer. And very kind of over the course of her journey, she cut off her entire friend group and only would talk to those people who would just tell her what she wanted to hear, which is, hey, we believe God is going to heal you completely and wholeheartedly. And what she says here, she's like, I suppose I understand where that comes from. She wanted to surround herself in an atmosphere of faith, but I wondered, faith in what? Faith in God or faith in faith? Submission to God or insisting on a particular outcome? And that just hit me right between the eyes as I was kind of preparing for this morning. Like, what do I believe in, man? What is that main source of faith? Is it my own sphere of control, or is it something bigger than that? So,
Hey, dude, you did not disappoint. That's
there's your truth bomb.
I'll tell you, man. But it's really what's fascinating. I think what I love about this type of journey is that we don't have to beat ourselves up in the midst of the journey, right? Because none of us are perfect. But I think what's more concerning is that folks will just go through this life and not ask any of these questions and not consider, who am I surrounding myself with and why am I surrounding myself with these individuals? Like, I love the fact we jump in a call here. We have 6 dudes, 7 dudes, and immediately we're going to start talking about our faith, lack of, where we're faltering, and what to do about it. Like, dude, if more people would just be committed to finding somebody that they can just be honest with and have a friend, right, that'll be honest back with them, dude, what kind of world would it be? And if we extended that to our kids and our families and our homes and our businesses, what could that be, right? And Alan, I think about what you do, and I'm just like, man, the truth of true relationship could literally save lives. And an honest discussion in non-judgmental and fully loved and accepted ways could literally save lives in everything that you're doing as well. It's just fascinating to me that we resist it. And I think because the answers are hard, right, Mike? Like, it's not easy. I don't enjoy as a Christian being like, yeah, man, I draw more comfort in a bank account than I do in my God. Like, that's messed up. That's messed up. Well, not my bank account, because my bank account is not one to draw great comfort from at this point. But still, it's a thing that you're like, wow, that kind of hits you right between the eyes. And then I read in Matthew, it's easier for a camel to pass through a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. You're like, oh, why did he say that? Like, Jesus doesn't mince words. Like, why did he say that? Well, there's a reason to it. And it's just, I really appreciate you expressing that. Some of us will call it lack of faith. And I don't think it's lack of faith. I think it's lack of identifying our faith and understanding truly because once we do, then we can make choices, right? Like, I have, what do I have faith in? What brings me comfort? And I have been very focused on money lately in our businesses and our different conversations. And then my following was, but my focus has been shifting more to God. And it's an iterative process, and it's been a beautiful thing for me, but it's a process, dude. It's not, I didn't write my focus has shifted. My focus is shifting. Stu, you can say something?
Yeah, I mean, we had kind of these similar aha moments of clarity just in our business. And Mike, you kind of bring up a good point about faith in your own doing, faith in your own effort, because we've had that too, man. Like, and I think David, you had a talk with a guy who's mentor to us, and he was basically like, quit trying so hard, like quit putting so much like emphasis on your own effort, and like just add value, right? Just add value to your relationships and the people that you connect with, and in time it will come. Like, just stop like putting so much stress and anxiety on yourself to like base something off of your effort and control and a number, right? A number of money raised, or a number of members joined this month, or whatever the number is. Like, quit trying so hard and just just add value, and it will come.
Well, and what's fascinating too is it's been a while when we were in the phase of just making ourselves um, sole responsible to scale a business. And when we removed that and we jumped back into this and started reflections, like, dude, I've been excited for this call. Like for all week, I've been excited for this call. And had been a while since I've been really, really excited about these conversations, because these conversations that we're now back fully in, like my growth is just, personal growth is I can feel it. And from a faith perspective, giving that thing, man, God, it's in your hands, man. Like it's in your hands. The awesome thing about that, I'm not a passive faith guy. I'm not like, oh, Jesus, take the wheel. No, man, like he expects you to push the gas, hold the wheel, and go and be leadable. But it's also comforting to give, for me and my faith, to acknowledge what I have faith in, and to give the responsibility there, in a sense, right? To trust that is going to be something that God is going to be providing, and then take that pressure, right? Because he's not failed so far. He's not failed so far. So what is this that I'm struggling with? And again, even if you're not a person of faith, you have faith in something. And if you acknowledge that thing and you put it in its right bin, there's a great source of comfort in that. Alan, I'm curious, what was your question? What was your answer to that question?
So mine really ties back into actually the first question. And I think it's probably important to just acknowledge that my faith and basically my entire existence is drastically shifted by my suicide journey, right? And so, and so what I wrote for the second question is that it's going to be okay, and that God and the universe have my back. But it really ties back to the first question. And so I'll read those 4 answers because I think it's relevant. So to me, faith is that, first, the creator doesn't need my help. Second is that the creator has my eternal best interest in mind. Third is what's best for my eternity may not be best right in this moment. And the fourth is that I'm not strong enough to do faith alone. And so what I've learned, and so how it ties, what do I have the most faith in? I would say that it's going to be okay. Part of that is faith in my ability to fix whatever I mess up, because I do it constantly. But the other thing is that, like, God seems to have a broom in my life and has mastered the art of cleaning up the messes I make. And so, just so really kind of my faith is it's going to be okay. Because I've seen the swamp, and I made it out alive.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. Well, I think next month I may pass the content to you guys, and then you guys just like put some like really good stuff in it and kick it back, and then I'll present it as my own. Dude, that's awesome, man. I love that. And I even you talking, when you say, and this is why we talk about sharing, right? Because you have no idea what words are going to hit with whom. But when you just saying it's going to be okay, and Ben had said something similar in that same vein, but that it's going to be okay. And I think Joe, you did as well. But just sitting in that, for me in this call right now, is extremely comforting. And I can't even like put anything to mind right now that's significantly distressing in any way. It's just the depth of the comfort of that faith statement is profound. And for me, it just has an impact. And so I thank you guys for that. That's a gift. It's awesome. All right, next question. Where does your faith come from? So I use it family of origin, personal journey, finances, title. Like where does the faith, if you had to give it a root, where does it come from? Ready, go.
Right time.
All right, back to the top. Levi, what you got?
All right. So yeah, where my faith comes from, I would say initially, I grew up in the Mormon church out in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. And that was kind of the tradition I was born into. But a lot of my family wasn't, so I got to see both sides, right? Um, and I saw, we're all human beings. And what I saw is I saw like a lot of judgment in the Mormon church, like for the family of mine that weren't in the church, seen as bad, but it's like, my stepbrother, I didn't see him as bad when I was growing up. And so that kind of shook my faith a little bit. Um, and there was other things that shook my faith as well. And so I think what happened when those experiences occurred was that I looked for the next shiny object or the thing that's bigger than yourself, right? And I saw, like I said, the Service Academy. I saw service. I saw kind of the patriot ideal of kind of serving your country. That turned into my new God, if you will, right? And along that journey, and as a kid, now that Gen Z, they don't have a lot of respect for elders, but I did when I was a kid. And going into the wars and ultimately the drone strikes that I participated in, um, uh, a thing that I had an assumption going in there that our kind of wars were divinely inspired, and I trusted our leadership, right? Um, and then another crisis of faith and kind of why I got out of the military was there's other we're human beings, and there's incentives other than a divinely inspired just war, but there's financial incentives and political incentives, right? And then I couldn't kind of stay in if I had any questions, right? And one thing I learned is, um, don't put your faith really in human beings, right? Even though, we're doing our best and we make mistakes and all that kind of stuff, and we can have joyful relationships and everything like that, is like not to put your total trust and faith into into any human being. And that's why I'm kind of, this last year and a half was, just being honest, was kind of a dark night of the soul experience. And luckily I have some mentors that are helping me out. And so that's why I'm kind of seeking and stuff like that. But where I go in the question in particular, where the origin of my faith comes from, is I was actually lucky enough to grow up with my grandma Emma Luke. Growing up, she played the piano for the LDS church to like the organ. She was the best piano player I ever knew. She started in like jazz bands when she was like 5 and then taught and everything like that. But I got to live with her, saw her like in a rose garden, but she embodied Jesus Christ. And there wasn't that judgment that I saw from other people. She actually, just a quick story, I'll get onto it and kind of how I maybe placed my faith in her and how it's seeking. But she lived like Jesus Christ would want her to, right? Of just seeing her example as a kid. Like I remember a story where this gal, she had gotten pregnant, at 16 years old or whatever, just kind of teen pregnancy kind of thing. And my grandma just like cried for her. It wasn't like a judgment of her that she's bad for getting pregnant as a teen. It was like pure like love, and just cried for her like with compassion, all that kind of stuff. And she lived it out. So like she's my main example of a human being to kind of put faith into. But I'm seeking that, like, oh, do I put it in Jesus? And I'm kind of seeking other ways too. But that's kind of where my origins come from.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's good. It's I think there's, you know, I think the point of that I take with the story, particularly with your grandma, is that I think one thing that's common for everybody, whether they have faith or not, I say faith or not, whether we believe in a God or not, is that we're all seeking that thing that is worthy of our faith. We're all seeking that thing that in which we put faith. And inevitably there is faith, and we're going to put it somewhere. And so I think that's a beautiful example of, like, because there are things that, and not, your grandma sounds like an amazing human being, and you just have to measure, is she worthy of my faith? Is she an awesome person? Is she great? Is she whatever? Yes, all those things are great, but is she worthy of that faith? Is my title worthy of my faith? Is this thing I'm seeking, is this number, are they worthy of my faith? And when we start looking at things that way, it can at least take you to it takes you to not only deeper, but it takes you to a place of choice. I think that's the critical aspect of choice, right? That we're not blind in it, that we choose exactly what it is and the path we're going to take. So I appreciate you sharing that, man. Hey, last question we're going to go through. There's a couple other ones in your notebook, and I would encourage you guys to dig into each of these. But just for discussion and time's sake, 2 minutes. When was your faith the only thing that got you through a tough time? All right. So when was your faith the only thing that got you through a tough time? Ready, go. Does anybody want to share? I won't put you on the spot on this one, but if you want to share, come on. I was gonna call him Ben, but his little guy, man. I'm just kidding, Ben. I just see you. I just see you with the baby, and he's yelling.
He is yelling. I'll go quick. I can make it succinct while he's maybe quiet. For me, there was a proverb. It was my first proverb I ever memorized out of the Bible, 14:4, and it talks about where there's oxen in life, there's life, and where there's no oxen, there is no life. And a mentor of mine translated it, and he said it takes a lot of shit to make good soil. And it's what the oxen leave behind. And so if you convert that to life, like the more shit you have in your life, the more fertilizer and potential you have. And in my marriage, the death of my wife's dad when we first got married defined my marriage. And knowing that was a pile of fertilizer, I believed in that worked into the soil would grow an amazing garden. And as I hold Evan here now, that proverb is the only reason he exists. Otherwise, I would have did the standard shut down, divorce, do anything, self-sabotage. But that proverb put my faith in that through all that fertilizer, God finds a way to use it. And if you put your faith in that fertilizer, it does work out.
That's good, man. Good. Spoken like a true Marine as well. I can't deny that.
Yeah. For any of the non-academy ones, I'm also a non-academy, just single-handedly enlisted corporal in the Marine Corps.
Awesome, man. I love it. Mike, were you going to share something? That's why you come off mute.
Yeah, can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah. Sorry, I had to transition to the car. But yeah, I mean, this whole journey for me has, for those of you guys who know John Ballinger, my family and I walked a similar journey to his, and, that ended up in the loss of a child. And the faith thing, back to what I shared earlier, that was outside of my sphere of control, to the extent that I couldn't have ever imagined. And, it started out like, oh, Lord, I trust your will. I trust your will. But, and what it ended up coming to is, reading the story of Jesus praying before he was betrayed. And he says, my soul is filled with sorrow to the point of death. And there's so many verses, there's so many things in scripture that you read, 1 time, 10 times, 30 times, and then all of a sudden it becomes applicable, and it fits your life, it fits your life story, and it changes the meaning completely. So for me, that faith, I had an easy upbringing, an easy childhood, an easy adulthood until, like I said, I became a cop and I observed the dark underbelly of the world, but I could always keep it at arm's distance. I could always keep it away. And then tragedy hits my house, my family, and I can't do a damn thing about it. I can't fix it. And it was a gut check time. It's like, okay, I've said I've believed all of this stuff forever. Do I? Do I believe that my God is good? Do I believe that, in all things, God is working for the good of those who love the Lord? Sure doesn't feel like that right now. But to Ben's point, that I wouldn't change what we went through for anything. I wouldn't get rid of that experience, even though my heart is shattered for the rest of my life. I wouldn't change it because faith became real. Sorry, I'm an emotional dude. Nice to meet you guys. Faith became real for the first time. And like I said earlier, I still struggle with that on a daily basis. I've got 2 healthy, beautiful little girls, but I struggle every single day when I drop them off at school that something terrible is going to happen. But I have to rest in the fact, and, I'll come back to that verse from Romans. I had always quoted it when I was young and naive and just a Christian out there to make a difference. I always said, in all things together, all these things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And if you go back and read it, it doesn't say together. It says in all things. So I was trying to put together this puzzle piece of pain, this puzzle of pain with all of these pieces to see God's goodness as a whole big picture. But what I needed to do is I needed to recognize that each one of those pieces God is in. The whole picture may not make sense. It will not make sense this side of heaven, but in all things, God works for the good of those who love the Lord. And, it was a culmination of stuff I didn't deal with, trauma I didn't deal with as a cop, things I had seen, things I had, been a part of. And all of this comes to a head. It's like, okay, I got to make a decision here at this fork in the road. Do I take the self-sabotage route? Do I become an angry alcoholic? Do I ruin everything that I have? Or do I lean into that notion that in all things, God works for the good of those who love the Lord? And that was a one-time decision, but it's an everyday decision. It's an hour by hour decision to lean into what I believe to be true.
Man, that's awesome, dude. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Powerful, man.
And don't we're very emotional men as well. So there's lots of tears that happen from this side as well. So
I never
love that.
cry. I don't know what
think
you're talking about.
Yeah, you never cry. Stu never cries. I'm actually shocked Stu hasn't been crying the entire time. Sometimes it gets awkward because he cries the entire time. But
that's why it's really dark, because you can't see the eyes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And my hat down.
That's part of his camera lighting, so that way
Part of his
the
camera
real
lighting, yeah. You can't see all the
emotion
tears.
can't be revealed.
No,
Just
dude,
the
I
stoic
love it.
stubbornness of not crying and tough as nails
Exactly.
look comes across.
Exactly. No, Mike, I really appreciate you sharing that story. It gives opportunity for 2 things. One, I love praying for you guys, and so I'll very specifically pray for that, because I don't think there's ever full, like you said, the pain never goes away, it just changes, and your acknowledgement that God, that's a huge challenge to faith, that I think that I pray to God that I never have to be challenged so strongly. And so I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing that, dude. Appreciate you. Hey dudes, we are coming to time. I want to honor your time. Hey, homework. So much like last week, this week, Levi, and you guys can reach out to us if you don't have contact numbers. We'll leave this up and you guys could DM for a few if you can do that. But Levi, call Joe. Joe, call Alan. He signed off. Alan will call Ben. We'll hit up Alan, let him know to call Ben. Ben, call Mike. Mike, call Levi. What that does in the next month, you'll either make a call or receive a call, and you'll connect with two dudes. And I'll tell you, man, like I promise you that whatever conversation takes place is going to be incredible. I've had conversations with almost all of you individually, and all those conversations for me were an absolute blessing. So I look forward to you guys connecting in the same way. So that's your homework. Also, excuse me. One just for a couple admin things I want to make you guys aware of. So the TKM internal calls on the third Wednesday of almost every month. I say most months because this month's a weird month with 5 weeks, but most months it's the third Wednesday of most months at 11 o'clock Mountain. There's a call that we do. It's just internal to TKM, and the focus of it is either educational or an investment opportunity. So somebody who has a deal that we offer opportunities for dudes to pitch deals. So if you guys have deals that you would want to pitch or something you're doing, your coaching program, whatever it is, it's an opportunity for you to also, we want to open this venue for you guys to be able to share what it is that you're doing and have other dudes invest in you and be able to partake in the things you're doing. Right. So that's the intent of that third Wednesday of the week. I'm sorry, third Wednesday of the month. You guys all are invited to that. So come to that if you'd like.
You guys should be invited on Wednesday, April 17th. There's an investor pitch day. Should be on the calendar. You guys should have an invite. If you don't, then let us know.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Within the group, a lot of guys are invested in each other's deals. To the extent I don't even know how much that's happening. I just know that there's guys that are like, oh, dude, I totally invested in that. And I'm like, that's super sweet. I had no idea you were doing that. So we want to make that opportunity for you guys. And then lastly, October 9th through 11th, we're having out here in Colorado, another men's retreat. So I will put you guys should see it. We'll send it in an email as well, but there's a link if you want to sign up. So we're doing a little bit differently than we have in the past. It is only for internal members. So the retreats are internal only. We're not looking for outside members. And what we did with that as well, to take all the pressure off of us, we took the total cost of what that would be. The minimum people that have to sign up is 7. And we basically just divided that cost up. And so today's price, if you wanted to go to that, is $13.99, all inclusive lodging, catered food. And everybody that signs up, that price just continues to go down. So I can't give you what, like if 20 dudes sign up, it's going to be a vastly different price point. But that's just I would say worst case scenario, quote unquote, with the minimum number of dudes going. Okay, that's October 9th through 11th. And they've been awesome. Ben can attest to the content wise. He's never been to the Colorado one, but just an awesome group of dudes getting together and just having some deep conversations. We compete. We have Olympic events that I'm a reigning champion for the last one. I don't want to brag. It just is what it is. Like some people got it, some people don't. You know what I'm saying? And so
The only time Navy number is number 1.
Hey man, me and my teammate crushed it. All right, that's all I gotta say. It's just a great time. Do some hard things, go on some hikes, and it's a beautiful location. So if you're interested, hit us up, let us know. And like I said, that's today's price. It's gonna change. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's gonna end up being. So just give you guys a knowledge on what we're doing. Cool. Hey, thank you guys for showing up, man. Love it. And if you have awesome conversations, if you guys need anything from Stu or I or Steven, don't hesitate to hit us up. And have a great month, man. Hey, dig deep in this faith thing.
Goody, just last thing. So for the rest of the month, you'll see the rest of the curriculum, execute, account, live. That's on you guys. Read through the workbook, go through that on a weekly basis. We will send you guys a prompt to kind of journal on for account week. We do some Socratic conversations, and so we'll give you kind of some prompts there to journal on and think through. And then hold each other accountable when you guys are having calls with each other. Talk about like what your plan is for what you wrote down for execute week and what you're doing, how you're changing that, how you're putting that on the calendar, and how you're living that out. So hold each other accountable to that. That's all I got. Great to see you, dudes.
See you guys. Sorry, before you hang up, I said that Alan would call Ben. Okay, I'll let him know. Joe, nice to see you.
Good. Yeah, good to see you guys. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a great
All right,
week.
guys.
All right.
See ya.
Take
All right,
care.
see you guys.